What's going on, everybody? Brandon here from Gearist. It has been a while, and welcome back. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the S-Lab Sonic 2 from Salomon. Before we get into the review, by the way, I wanted to let you guys know that our socks are now in. Look at some of these fantastic designs that we've got here. We're doing all the designs in-house, super high performance, mid-shin sock. It's really, really wonderful. You got some Gearist branding right there. These are all going out to the people that have subscribed to the Sock of the Month Club or individuals today. But if you want to subscribe or get these socks one-off, you don't have to do the whole club thing. You can do so by going to gearist.com/shop. Check it out. Let me know what you think. That is all now. Let's get into talking about this guy right here. This, again, is the Salomon S-Lab Sonic 2. Now, if you hear me talk about running shoes, generally speaking, with Salomon, you think trail shoes. I mean, that's kind of where their pedigree lies. However, in the last few years, Salomon has actually been dipping their toe into the road running business. And as in typical Salomon fashion, they don't just build a shoe that looks cool with this cool monochrome red look here. They don't just build a shoe that looks cool and it's fashionable and costs a lot of money. What they do is they build shoes that kick some serious ass, and is no difference with the shoe that we are looking at today. As with all the footwear that we check out, the first thing we're gonna look at is the outsole of this. And this is made, once again, from Salomon's Contagrip rubber. Now, we've seen Contagrip in a lot of shoes in the past, and as in the past, it remains one of my favorite rubber compounds that is on the market. Super sticky when wet, when dry, great traction for climbing, for descending. It's just a really, really great compound, and it is all over the bottom of the shoe in two main sections. Number one, we've got the forefoot up here, which we can see have a ton of flex grooves that go top to bottom, side to side. These flex this way, they flex this way, and then we've got also the crescent shape down here in the heel, which also has some flex grooves on it to really have a nice roll off for that landing. Now, what's fantastic about this, once again, as I mentioned a second ago, is that these flex grooves allow for a lot of flexibility across the shoe so that the outsole isn't part of any stiffness in there. And you can see, once again, we've got a ton of flexibility in this guy. Now, rounding out the outsole, what we can see right here, this stuff right here is actually kind of part of the midsole too, is Salomon's 3D Profil film. Now, while some other shoemakers might opt for a more rigid midfoot shank in there to really gain that pop, what Salomon has done instead is this is a more subtle version of a shank, if you will. It's not even a shank. I hesitate to call it that. That's why it's called a film. In this case, what it's meant to do is to create a very seamless transition from the rear of the foot to the midfoot to the forefoot. Now, this obviously would cater to people that are landing very much on their heel, right? You're gonna land like that and you want that smooth transition. But what I've noticed, and I'll talk about this in the ride section, being a midfoot or whole foot runner, what I've noticed is that I'm really landing there and I feel that just nice transition. There's no buckling in the midfoot or anything like that. Very, very performance-oriented element in this shoe. Now, if you'll allow me for a second, I want to go back to the Contagrip rubber, which is on this guy. A couple of years ago, I was at the Outdoor Retailer show, and one of the things that Salomon was displaying at their booth was this sheet of marble, right? It was kind of a sheet of marble angled about like this, and they had water running across it. And the idea of that thing was to put on one shoe which had kind of the former version of Contagrip, and then the new wet dry premium Contagrip. And you would put one shoe on one foot and one foot on the, or one shoe on the other foot, and you would stand on it and notice just how sticky it was on a polished marble surface, which, as we know, if you've ever busted your ass on polished marble, is something that gets very slippery when wet. And it was really, truly amazing how well it stuck to that. And it was really a testament to the new compound. And that is what is, once again, going on here in this shoe. And in my runs in this shoe, which it's been about, I don't know, a month since I've run in this shoe, because I was in a car crash recently, and then, yeah, stuff like that I can't really get into, but it was really performance oriented when there was melting snow. It really gripped the road well, whether it was kind of a more asphalt thing where you get a little bit of oily film on it, or even concrete sidewalks. It just did very, very well. And also, it's very durable. This has over 50 miles on it, and there is just very little sign of wear. It might get a little dirty again from that asphalt that I was running on and things like that, but in general, super high durability. And once again, we'll talk about the price tag a little bit later, but when you see a price tag like a lot of Salomon shoes, especially their S-Lab shoes, come with, then you really want durability. And in this case, that is certainly one of the places where this shines. Now, this is also a road shoe, as I've mentioned and as you know. However, this is not a really luggy shoe, but I did manage to take this on some groom trails, some single track and things like that, and it performs like a dream there. It's not necessarily meant for that, but my God, does it fly on that type of trail. This is not a dissimilar outsole in terms of lug depth and all that stuff from the Killian shoe, right? The Salomon S Ultra. That is something that has a kind of flat profile like this on the bottom, and this thing grips just as well as that. It's a really spectacular shoe. Now, as we move into the midsole of this shoe, this is made primarily from a single density EVA called Energy Cell Plus. However, it also utilizes a new system called Vibe, which takes a substance called Opal, which I'm going to talk about in a second, and introduces that into the midsole inside that single density EVA Energy Cell Plus foam. Now, Opal is made using TPP foam. That's thermoplastic propylene, got it right, and is similar to, though lighter than, TPU foam, right? So like your Everrun and your Adidas Boost and things like that. Now, in this case, Opal is laid in 6mm deep pods, run right under the heel in kind of an oval there, and what it's meant to do is work with the other foams that sit in here, right? So it's meant to not necessarily be something that stands on its own, although it certainly does, but to work with that Energy Cell Plus foam here to create a system that reduces impact shock on the shoe, which makes this a great long distance shoe. So how did the Opal perform? How did the Vibe system perform? Well, for me, it did very, very well. Now, on shorter runs, there's enough pop in the shoe, and the midsole certainly allows for that, especially with that profile film that we've got right here. There's enough pop in this shoe for some shorter, more aggressive efforts, but it's also cushioned enough, especially with that Opal, which again, I really, really liked, especially with that Opal to be a marathon shoe. And before I had to cancel on the 2018 Ironman Boulder, this was one of the shoes that was in the final contenders for the shoe that I was going to wear for that race. So maybe if I do the 2019 Ironman Boulder, this could be the shoe, but we shall see about that. And for the geometry nerds out there, this is a 24mm stack in the heel and a 16mm stack in the forefoot for a net drop of 8mm, which really doesn't feel like a net drop of 8mm. It's very comfortable. So even those low drop runners, lower than this drop runners, you're gonna feel very comfortable in this. Now, if you've run in Salomon S Lab shoes before, then the upper of this is going to be no real surprise. This is comprised of a single layer, very durable, very breathable mesh. Now, if you're somebody who is gonna wanna go and run in super cold weather, you may want something a little more solid on top. And by solid, I don't mean well built. I just mean not as breathable and open. I had this in runs down to about 15 degrees Fahrenheit, and it felt fine to me. I was wearing some thicker socks. I was fine. And I tend to not have overheating feet problems or super cold feet problems. But if you do, just be aware of that. Now, the support structure in the shoe is a series of bonded overlays, which we can see here and then here again on the medial side. These are super lightweight and flexible, but they're still strong enough to really keep the shoe and the foot nicely locked down. And we can see that they extend all the way down to the midsole here and wrap under. That's something I'm going to touch on again in a second with a different part of the shoe. On both the medial and lateral side, it gives a nice lockdown and very cohesive feel to this shoe. These overlays also extend back into this kind of heel strap right back around the heel counter here, and up into a kind of, it's not super like rigid or anything like that. It's just kind of a minimal toe cap right here to provide a little bit of protection should you kick something not that hard. On the interior of the S Lab Sonic 2, we also see the Endo Fit, which we've seen before, kind of this booty construction that runs right down to about here, just above the vamp in the shoe, which again gives a very nice hug to the foot, keeps it very comfortable within the shoe. Now, the laces in this, even though it's a speed shoe, a road running shoe, you could argue that it is a fast triathlon shoe for some people. The laces in this, they decided to go with more traditional. These are lay flat laces. There's a little bit of stretch in it, not much, just very little, instead of some of the speed laces we see in a lot of the other S Lab shoes. For me, I actually really liked this. There's no need for me in this to have speed laces necessarily. It's not that trail shoe where you kind of want to cinch them down all the time, but these worked very, very well. As for durability in the upper of this guy, there really is no additional wear on this. And again, I would put the caveat out there that I have worn this on some trails, so it's not like it's going without that. So it's definitely something that's holding up well. No picks, no pulls, no nothing like that I can really see. So great durability. As we move into the fit of the shoe, and this is something that I think is going to surprise a lot of people who've worn a lot of Salomons in the past, especially S Lab shoes from Salomon. Those shoes tend to have a more Euro or more racery fit to them, more tight to the foot, a little more narrow and things like that. This shoe has a much more relaxed fit fit. Now, while for me, with my very average foot, I actually liked the narrower fit that they had quite a bit. It didn't bother me at all. I didn't find it constricting or anything like that. But the fit in this guy right here is fantastic. It's awesome. On longer runs where your foot can get a little swollen here and there and things like that, I didn't feel any constriction. I didn't feel overly swimmy or anything like that. And I should mention, by the way, this is kind of a caveat. This is not swimmy. This is not wide. If you have a 2E foot, it's not going to fit in this particular version. I don't think they have a wide version, but if they do, you go for that. This is not wide. It's just more relaxed than they've been in the past. Something like, I don't know, just kind of your average D width in the men's. And conversely to the longer runs, on more agility needing runs, this really I didn't feel my foot sliding around in the shoe. It really responded very, very well, especially when cornering and things like that on some of that buffed out trail that I mentioned a second ago. If you are somebody who steered clear of Salomon in the past because of their width, this is a shoe which you really, really should reconsider that, because it has been more relaxed and is much more kind of traditional feel. It's going to let your foot really wiggle and splay quite a bit more internally. As for sizing, the S-Lab Sonic 2 fit my size 11 right where I would expect it to be. Now, when I was outlining the ride section of this review, I had just so much to say, and I was kind of going, well, which thing do I point at? And what I've come back to is kind of a less is more approach. Partially that's because I think it can be summed up a little more concisely, and partially because this shoe is one of those shoes that falls into my quiet elegance places. And there's just, while you could be going on and on, kind of like I am now, about this shoe, a lot of the time, it's just not necessary. Out of the box, I thought the S-Lab Sonic 2 was going to be a shoe that was super aggressive and actually a little harsh for some people who wanted a little bit more cushion. However, I was proven very wrong. The Vibe system that is in here, which includes that Energy Cell Plus foam and the Opal insert, that system does an extremely good job of really providing a balanced ride and great ground feel, but as well as great response at the same time. It's got a nice amount of pep and pop for more aggressive or speedier efforts, but it's also nicely cushioned for some of those longer, more endurance needing runs that you're going to find out there. This is just a really, really well-balanced shoe that I honestly feel like anyone is going to have as a part of their arsenal. Now, there are some people out there that think that some reviewers don't really have anything negative to say about certain products. And that's not the case. If you ever see us say, well, I think this could be fixed or what have you, that is certainly the case with what we're saying. And lest you think that there's nothing that I have wrong with this shoe, hold on just a second, I'll get there. But with this shoe, with the product itself, I don't really have any problems. I think it's a fantastic shoe that anyone would have a good time in. The fit is good, the ride is good, the durability is good. But there's that price tag. Now, if you've ever shopped with the S-Lab shoes before, or any S-Lab gear, whether it's a jacket or shorts or something like that, anything from Salomon, the S-Lab collection, you're definitely not going to be having some sticker shock. But this shoe right here comes in at $180. For S-Lab shoes, it's pretty much on par with what I would expect. And that's one of the places where I feel like it's not as approachable. However, what Salomon does is they tend to roll down things in their line. So they'll have like the Speed Cross, they'll have the Speed Cross Pro, they'll have the Speed Cross whatever, the regular Speed Cross. So they'll just roll these things down and there's just a little bit less premium construction and so on and so forth. And so I'm sure that if you looked hard enough, you can find things down the line which are going to cater to kind of the same look and feel and overall performance aspects as this shoe, minus a few dollars on the price tag. Once again, this is just a really well-balanced shoe. It's something that I could run some buffed out trails and I could run a marathon, I could run a 5K. I just really, really like the way this feels. And one of the things that I find myself resisting doing is just wearing it kind of as an everyday shoe because it's just so comfortable. Now, this is something, again, that the price tag is a little bit steep, but if you're somebody who's been looking for kind of a kill-all shoe with a better fit, really aggressive, but also pretty cushioned, kind of riding the lines between all those different categories, this right here, the Salomon S-Lab Sonic 2, could very well be the shoe that you're looking for. Now, guys, we've got a question of the day for you, but before we get into that, allow me one more time to remind you to go to Gearist.com/shop. Get in the Sock of the Month Club. They are flipping awesome. Love that. Also, don't forget to follow us on all the socials and let us hear your comments down below. We want to converse with you. Also, follow us on all the socials and all that stuff. And now, here is our question of the day. And that is, if you could find a road shoe, as we're talking about in this case, which performs up to all the standards that you have for it. It's great for long distance, it's great for 5K, yada yada. It's just across the board a spectacular shoe that's durable, that's cushioned but not too much, that rides well but it's not too harsh, doesn't deaden ground feel. All the things that I've talked about liking in this shoe. how much would you pay for it? Like, where's your line? And again, I'm talking about this is a perfect shoe for you. What would you pay for it? Leave your comment down in the comment section below. We would love to hear, or just tweet it to us at the Gearist, or leave it on Instagram at Gearist. And by the way, when you're on Instagram, use the hashtag I'm a Gearist, IMAGEARIST. Guys, don't forget to visit Gearist.com. Thank you so much for all your continued support. Get out there, get sweaty, and we will see you next time.